Hey everybody, Jason Vermis here for wearechange.org, and I assure you Luke will be back shortly. But until then, we need to look at the big news stories out there that are asking the question, is the digital uprising finally here? Yes, hackers have now taken over anywhere from 5,500 to 70,000, depending on which media outlet you're looking at, smart devices and chromcasts. And what were they promoting? Well, they were basically letting the users be aware of the fact that they could be watched, tracked, traced, and databased through these devices at any moment because, of course, they are unsecure. And at the same time, promoting number one YouTuber PewDiePie. Why is this important? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. But I want to remind you guys, we are solely funded by you. So please, please, please consider becoming a member on our website, subscribing to the newsletter, becoming a member on YouTube, or just grabbing a t-shirt that not only looks great, but spreads a great message. All right, so let's get to the news. What exactly happened here? Well, we had a hacker that goes by the name Draff right here, Hacker Draff. The same pseudonyms person who forced thousands of exposed printers last year to churn out pages saying subscribe to PewDiePie, has set his sights on smart devices to promote the Swedish YouTube star's channel. Not that he really needs it, seeing he has 80 million subscribers. I guess it's just a hair under 80 million subscribers, but that's pretty substantial. However, we have seen not only in the past couple of weeks, couple of months, but really, there's been a concerted effort over the past few years to demonize PewDiePie and try to really associate him with racists and all of these things that he doesn't seem to be. Now, I can't say that I'm a huge fan, but at the same time, he does seem to be open-minded and somewhat anti-establishment, and that's why they're scared to death of him, because he has a larger following than anybody else on the biggest video platform in the world. And why is this important? Well, it's also being spun by hackers with this great message. The bottom line is anybody who knows anything about what our government does knows that since the 90s, anything you've done digitally has been tracked, traced, and databased. Look into the Hepting versus AT&T case. It really exposes that the NSA has a secure server room where all information is split off and goes through their servers. Now, it's gone beyond that because it's not just our government, but many different governments, many different corporate entities that now have access to this information. And we're all carrying around smart devices that have cameras and microphones in them. And in many cases, such as this, in the smart TVs, well, they are obviously accessed through the internet, as are the Chromecast devices, making any TV into a smart TV, which are hackable. Now, why does this make me happy? Well, I'll tell you why it makes me happy. It shows that at any moment, the people can rise up and spread their message against an oppressive entity, whether that be a corporation, a political party, or a government. And the people will continue to do this. And I think this was harmless enough and actually promoted a good message. Now, I'd like to transition that story into the Dark Overlord hacking group story that I covered briefly yesterday. Well, now I've really had a lot of time to sink my teeth into who this group is, what they're all about, and what they really want. But it does seem like they have legitimate documentation to the tune of almost 10 gigabytes, which they've already provided to the public in an encrypted fashion, and are now threatening to release the keys to those layers. There are 5 layers, and they're saying that each of these layers contains more and more damning information until you get to that 5th layer and opens up a new level of liability for many of these law firms. So how did this occur? Who are these people? Are they hacktivists? Let me tell you, they are not hacktivists. They are extortionists, and that's what worries me about this whole situation. But I would encourage everybody to circumvent what the media is saying about them and actually go check out their full press release from the mouths of babes. Now, this is a group that has been successful before. And it is worth noting they are making some astounding claims. But even the 10.2 megabytes of information that they have released, well, they sing the tune of truth, my friends. They sing the tune of legitimacy. So, what else is in there? What's been released so far? And what is their viewpoint on this issue? So, according to the Dark Overlord, these are the types of documents that they've gotten. What sorts of documents specifically? Emails, retainer agreements, non-disclosure agreements, settlements, litigation strategies, liability analysis, defense formations, collection of expert witness testimonies, communications with government officials in countries all over the world, voicemails dealing with the FBI, US DOJ, DOD, and more, confidential communications, and so much more. Now, let's just address the scope of that for a second. There were an enormous amount of litigations, lawsuits, insurance claims made through 9/11. And we have Lloyd's of London in here. We have Silverstein Properties, and we've already seen some of that documentation. And included in some of that documentation is the fact that the FAA had more and more information on Osama bin Laden and was not as surprised. How do we know this? Well, some of the testimonies that they are talking about are the actual people that were on duty in security in some of these airports and their transcripts. They're included in a lot of the emails out there. Remember, there's only 10.2 megabytes. What else is in there? Well, claims by Silverstein that, well, these buildings, especially Building 7, must not have been constructed right, and there needed to be lawsuits against those construction companies. Of course, those construction companies had to defend themselves. How they defended themselves? Well, we've only seen a small peek at that information. Let me go on to some of the other statements they make in this document. This is one of the bolder claims that they make. However, the entire planet will now know our name as a result of a single client of ours failing our arrangement and refusing to accept the fair penalties. Edward Snowden leaks were quite impressive and caught the world's attention due to the highly sensitive nature of the materials and global impact. What we're about to announce and leak will top Edward Snowden's finest work, both in volume and in impact. Now, obviously, these hackers are aware of the many conspiracy theories regarding 9/11, and they play up on many of them in this initial declaration, but especially regarding Building 7 and Silverstein Properties. Let's read another little excerpt. The keen amongst you may finally be drawing conclusions at this point, but you'll be astonished at what's to come. Keep reading. This also means that Silverstein Properties is involved, doesn't it? Now things are getting more interesting. Most of you readers will not be privy to the processes and methods utilized by Fortune 500 companies to litigate high-impact cases, but we are, and thankfully for us, we're going to let you in on the process. When major incidents like the World Trade Center 9/11 incident happen, part of the litigation must involve SSI, sensitive security information, and SCI, special compartment information from the likes of the FBI, CIA, TSA, FAA, DOD, and others being introduced into evidence. But of course, this can't become public for fear of the compromising of a nation's security. So they temporarily released these materials to the solicitor firms involved in the litigation with the strict demand they're destroyed after their use and that remain highly protected and confidential to only be behind closed doors. However, humans aren't perfect, and many of these documents don't become destroyed. And when the Dark Overlord comes along hacking all these solicitor firms, investment banks, global insurers, we stumble upon the juiciest secrets a government has to offer. So once again, they're claiming that they have DOD, FBI, CIA, and more documentation that the public has never seen. And that very well may be the case. if it's only testimony from officials within these government organizations that perhaps were not called before the 9/11 Commission to give their account of the day and what they think happened and what actually may have happened. These are just some of the small things that may be released. But here's the problem. They are openly selling to the highest bidder. And I'm not quite sure what that is, but they're reaching out to all sorts of entities, even politicians, saying that they can buy their individual information. And this opens up a plethora of problems. For instance, they state, for a limited time only, we're leaking the first few documents as proof of our trove on the famous dark web hacker forum Kickass. For those of you who are most interested in acquiring the entire set of documents, to include doc files, PDF files, PowerPoint, Excels, TIFFs, messages, and many other interesting formats, or just to acquire the most highly secret and confidential documents, the good news for you is that we'll be selling these documents for a limited time. If you're a terrorist organization such as ISIL or ISIS, Al-Qaeda, or a competing nation state of the USA such as China or Russia, you're welcome to purchase our trove of documents. You can easily contact us on the Dark Web Hacker Forum Kickass or by emailing us at an email found below. So once again, this proves that this organization is really only motivated by their digital wallets and money, and they are apolitical. They don't really care if this information comes out or not. In fact, they'd probably prefer that it did not come out so that they could get paid. Now, on the flip side of that, if they're willing to do this, let's say that they're contacted by intelligence or maybe a politician or a government organization that wants to spread disinformation. Who's to say that they won't pay this group to sprinkle in disinfo or perhaps delete their names from the document and replace something else there? There are a lot of things that could be going on here. At the same time, they have already released the 5 separate layers in encrypted format. So if anybody was able to actually decrypt them somehow, which is highly unlikely with the technology we have at this point, well, then it wouldn't matter, would it? And let's not forget, this group, in its terms of service, says that if you work with anybody, such as the FBI or otherwise, without being under the pretense of the law or being prosecuted yourself, they're going to release it whether you pay the ransom or not. So we will see where it goes from here, but the bottom line is we now live in a society where information can be gotten. Okay? Regular people with incredible tools of knowledge that are publicly available can now get documentation to bring down corruption and the oligarchs on a level never seen before in history. So hey, all you digital crypto cowboys out there that really came up from the 9/11 truth movement anyway, shouldn't you guys be getting together and trying to buy the keys yourself? Or at least some of them? Wouldn't that be the thing to do? Now, I'm not for extortion, but let's face it, that would be a way to get some of this information out to the public and at least let them know the lies that were being told about the air quality in many cases, about the building structure, about the security procedures, and about the hijackings themselves, because that's what seems to be in this trove. As always, I thank you for watching this video. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter at Jason Burmis. And remember to be the change you want to see in the world.